Shiva, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you. So actually, we will be discussing today interesting topics. The entire idea of today's class is I want you to start introducing. It's not you to learn the topics which were introduced with somebody else. I will tell you the journey that they have gone through during that time. I want everybody to become scientists for the day. We'll see how many of you will guess it. Okay. But before I start that topic, we have the previous class topic. Okay. We will try to complete that first and then come back here. So in the last class, what is the last class? Yeah. Here we are trying to find out, if you remember, I'm trying to convert a Telugu sentence to an English sentence. Perfectly fine, we have done that previously. But we came to a conclusion that all the source language words are not important always to generate a destination word. For example, to generate the word that is play well, I don't require the entire sentence in Telugu. I just require this and this. Since I am well aware of the two languages, I can easily identify which word of my Telugu language is important to generate an English word. But how do system know? That means for that reason, what we have introduced alphas. We have introduced alphas. Alphas will tell how much each word is important at every word generation. Theoretically, it is fine. Theoretically, again, it's a fine. In this case, to generate the playable word, the second word and the fifth word is only important. The rest of the words are not at all important. Then alpha is equal to 0 in all the cases. I think earlier, I think it's mistake here. This is alpha will be equal to 0 here. Okay. Alpha 24 will not be equal to 0. Alpha 34 will be equal to 0. Alpha 44 will be equal to 0. Alpha 54 will not be equal to 0. Okay, because the second word in Telugu and the fifth word in the Telugu sentence is more important to generate the word play well. Again, this is fine tuning of my thought process, introducing alphas. But again, I am giving the alpha values. System is not able to find out the alpha values. But at the end of the day, I can't take every sentence in Telugu and say that this is important at this point, this is important at this point, this is important at this point. There are infinitely possible sentences. So instead, what the notations that are following alpha is making more formal representation of my understanding. So let us use the same alpha. Now what we do is I combined this entire alphas h1 into alpha 1 4 plus h2 into alpha 2 4 h3 into alpha 3 4 h4 into alpha 4 4 plus h5 into alpha 5 4. I call that as a CT. I call that as CT. So CT, for example, at CT is equal to 4. I have an equation like alpha JT into HG, alpha 1 4 2 4 3 4 4 4 5 4, that the same above equation into the corresponding HG. Now H is already familiar to me because it's a hidden representation. I just multiply the input with the weight and I get hidden representation. But how do I know the weights alpha to tell which word is important at what point? That's the reason whenever I already told you a secret last time, whenever you are not aware of any parameter, here alpha, represent the unknown parameter with weights and learn it. Now we stopped at a question how to write an equation to get unknown alpha. Can I write like this? Alpha. I don't know this. Now let us write a function of known values. Then I'll get the unknown alpha. That's perfect. The idea is too good. This is the core theme of majority of the deep learning architectures. If you come up with your own architecture tomorrow, if you don't know some values associated with it, you can also follow the similar approach that people are literally following even today. Okay, understand the crux. That is very, very important. Okay, now what I do is I'll write an equation as f I'm saying known. What is known? Maybe I know st minus 1. Do I know? Yes, I know the previous state. I know the current state or hj. Obviously, I know because I know how to calculate hj, because you just multiply input with the corresponding input, you get hj. And then some weights and biases. Some weights and biases. That's a common trend that we follow from the beginning of our neural network course. Whatever we write the function without weights and biases will not do it. Maybe if you're confused, because from the beginning we are calling even bias as a part of weights, so we need some weights. Okay, these are the arguments that I'm expecting in my function. Now let us write the function. The function is actually tan h. I'll decode everything, Nana. I'm just writing the function. I'll decode everything. The first weight is u into st minus 1 plus w into hj. That's all. That's all. Now what is known to me? St minus 1 is known to me. Hj is known to me. I'm not aware of w weights and I'm not aware of u weights. That's fine. They will be trained. Initially, I'll initialize them randomly, and later they'll be trained such that the loss is minimum. Till the loss is very, very minimal, these u and w will be updated during backpropagation till the time the loss is minimal as regular training process. Okay. Now, why again tan h? There's people who invented this attention mechanism have used this, but you can try with other activation functions. There will not be any big issues. They have observed that optimal performance is achieved with the TANH, but you are free to change it. No problem. Okay, that's fine. Sir, is it looking very simple and very normal? Yeah, true. But let us understand more intricacies about this equation. See, if you just do this, you will not get a scalar value. What is alpha? Alpha is a scalar value. For example, if it is alpha 1, 4, I want the importance of H1. Alpha 1, 4 is nothing but this one, right? Alpha 1, 4 is nothing but this one. At H1 state, at fourth timestamp, I want the weight value. So that is, it's a scalar value. But if you just multiply this u into st minus 1 plus w into hj and apply tan h, you will get a vector. You will get a vector, but I want a scalar value because alpha 1, 4 is one single scalar value which tells the importance of my current input word. So actually, this st minus 1 is a d minus 1 dimension. Sorry, d cross 1 dimension. Why d cross 1? Because there are d neurons in st minus 1 state. Okay, and if you see the hj is also having d neurons in state, so it's also d cross 1. Now, what should be my matrix weight here? So matrix dimensions here, it should be somewhere like this, some size like K cross D, so that it is matrix compatible, matrix multiplication compatible. And again, this would be K cross D. Now, what happens if I just multiply these two guys, I'll get K cross 1. If I multiply these two guys, I'll get K cross 1. Okay, but if I add these two guys, because the addition is the operation between these two guys, again I'll get K cross 1 dimension. And when I apply tan h, because at the end of the day I need to apply tan h. When I apply tan h, again I would get R K cross 1. But I want what? Here K cross 1 in the sense K rows of one column. But I don't want multiple values even in single column. I want only one value. This is a problem. Like, this is a very common problem. How do we solve this problem? Can anybody tell me? Think. This is the equation invented by Google. Google will not come from the sky. Think. They faced, okay, they want an alpha with single value, but they got multiple values in the final representation, but they want one value. You can think. Think, Nana. Can anybody think on it? It's very easy. See, all this thought process will really help you to attend any interviews, Nana. Not only this. And not only deep learning, Nana, any mathematical interviews or any other general interviews also, directly or indirectly, this thought process will help you really well. You will realize when you're going for placements. Tell me, you have an arc k cross 1. If we assume that this is an interview question, I want a scalar value after some equation. I got arc k cross 1, but I want 1 cross 1. What should you do? Something should strike in your mind by now. Any answers? Think, Nana, think. Don't make it, you don't make your mind idle. It will rust like anything. It will rust and rust. Gone. Your mind is gone. Think. Any answers? Very simple answer. Very simple way. Any answers? Okay, then I'll tell you. I hope at least somebody thought. I'll just introduce another mate matrix, which is of dimension. Can anybody tell what is this dimension? It is 1
1
cross.
cross k, sir.
Great, super, Nana. So this 1 cross k and k cross 1, when it's multiplied, finally I'll get 1 cross 1 value. That is a scalar value that I want for the current state. That's all. Very simple solution. See, that's the reason, Nana, when we study any technique in a proper direction, in a proper sequence, now you started telling. If you are there at Google also, you may have come up with these equations. Nothing is great. Okay, nothing is difficult, but only thing is the way we learn, the way we think. That's very important. Everybody will become scientists from Google, or even though you don't work, your mind or thought process will be to that level. Enjoying, getting motivated, loving, passion, all these things, and good thought process will make you really give the solutions like anything. You will only get surprised when you give solutions. Okay, let us experience that. Let us get experience with that thought process from your side with next topics that we are going to learn. That's the same thing that I'm following from the beginning of the course, but today again we reiterate that thought process from your side. Okay, the first one is done. Now if I want to summarize the equations for attention mechanism. Again, what is the input? At least in the context of this example, Telugu sentence. What is the output? A translated English sentence. Perfectly fine. Then in that case, what is the encoder? Encoder is some RNN, where it takes the previous state and it takes the current input, and I get some state HT, H1, H2, H3, H4, and the final state HT. In our case, what is the final state? Final hidden state? It is H5, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H5. H5 is the last state. Okay, I'm instead of writing H5, I'm writing HT. Let me call that as S0. This is the encoder. And what about the decoder equations? Firstly, we need to write the equation for alpha jt, jth hidden state and tth timestamp of the decoder. Okay, so is equal to, what is the equation? V into tan h u into hj plus w into st. Okay, that's all. Do remember, Nana, once again, I'm just telling here, what are the weights that you see? U, W, V are already there in our traditional RNN. That weights and these weights are different. Please do not get confused. Maybe if you want this to be different, you feel A. Let me putting A. That means attention. Attention weights are denoted by A. Okay, you can only for the sake of getting you feel that they're different. Okay, this is alpha. Now, what I do is I don't want alphas to be having different values. If I use this equation, some scalar value will be 2, some scalar value will be 10, some scalar value will be 100. I don't want this abnormal range of values. Now, what is the solution? Definitely you know this. It's actually just use softmax so that you get the probability distribution. Okay, so that's the reason my alpha jt is equal to softmax of alpha jt. What are the alpha jt values that I get? I just do the softmax and I get a new alpha jt. Now once I get alpha jt, you remember guys, I multiply alpha j values, the importance that I get, the importance of my Telugu word with respect to the English words, I get in the form of alpha j, and I multiply that hj with hj. This has to be repeated for all terms. Alpha for a corresponding term and the corresponding state of that term. This has to be done for all the terms. And let me call this as CT. So once I have CT, what is the next thing? I get what the decoder state. So actually it is RNN. RNN. Every RNN decoder will take the previous state ST minus 1. Will take the previous output YT minus 1. And here what it takes, it will take CT also, because CT will tell what is the important word of my Telugu sentence is given as CT, and YT minus 1 is the previous English word that was translated. ST minus 1 is the understanding to generate YT minus 1. All these things are part of my RNN to generate the next state ST. Then what I do is I just apply softmax. I just apply softmax into V into ST, some bias B, and finally I'll get out. That's all. So these are the equations. In the exam, we'll be asking you some application, and we will ask you what is the encoder and what is the encoder equations and what is the decoder set of equations. See, when I'm saying these are important in the context of your exam, please ensure that you take a note of it so that you no need to ask me the model question paper separately. Okay. Fine. So with this, we are done with the first topic. No, we are done with the first topic. So do you remember, guys, module 5, we are discussing encoder, decoder models. I'm done with this. In this, we have seen 5 applications: e-voice tagging, sentiment analysis, next word prediction, image captioning, translation. This translation, what we have seen is with attention. Without attention, we have seen, and with attention also we have seen. So with this, I'm done with encoder decoder models. Now the next topic is object detection. Guys, I'll tell you, you have an experience in this object detection that's perfectly very helpful for you to understand. Actually, in the lab, we have seen YOLO V3, and some of you have implemented even YOLO V4. So YOLO is very, very standard, but YOLO was not invented in the first place. Many algorithms. You will realize, guys, around 20 to 30 object detection algorithms are there. 20 to 30, 20 to 30 object detection algorithms exist. Now, can we really study all of these? It's impossible, right? But I'll tell you the main thread that made all this 20 to 30 to be introduced by various researchers and scientists. Okay, let us discuss two family of object detection which are extremely popular. The most popular object detection algorithms are, the first one is RCNN variants. RCNN variants. Based on the drawbacks of RCNN variants, people have invented YOLO variants. YOLO V1, YOLO V2, YOLO V3, YOLO V4. So these are the two set of algorithms. In this we discuss multiple algorithms. In this we'll discuss multiple algorithms. But using this sequence, people have come up with some other algorithms. But this, if you know this, tomorrow maybe you can come up with your own object detection algorithm. Okay. Now let us see the first family of object detection algorithms, that's RCNN. Okay, let's see that. RCNN. What is RCNN is, you know CNN. Okay, it is clearly written as RCNN. What is RCNN? You know CNN, convolution neural network. What is R? R stands for region. R stands for region based convolution neural network. Now I'll tell you, guys, I'll tell you the okay, what we do is, firstly, assume that none of these techniques exist in the entire deep learning community, and your boss or a team leader or your higher official has given you the task, shall we do an object detection algorithm or shall we come up with an object detection algorithm? Then first thing that you have to first get clarity is what is the difference between image classification versus object detection. What is the difference? Image classification and object detection. What is the difference? See, when you have only one object in the image, then you can perform image classification. We don't have any issues. But when we have multiple objects, when you have multiple objects, object 1, object 2, object 3, like that, classifying a particular object requires a lot of effort. For example, I want to tell whether I want to know whether a car was there or not. Then you need to pass the entire image and check for car. Okay, yes or no. I also want to know whether in the same image, I want to know whether some bottle exists in this. Then again, I have to send the same image to again CNN. Again, the same image to another CNN. Again, the same image to another CNN. So it will be very, very time consuming. So we don't want that. So if generally in most of the cases, you will find multiple objects in the same image and sending to a classification model and asking whether this object there, this object is there, this object is there, this object is there, it will be heavily time consuming. We don't want that. So that's the reason we go for object detection. Okay. So, and it's not only to do check with respective to the classification. Object detection is also useful in many cases. Many cases. For example, once I detect the person, then I can detect the face mask easily. Okay, then I can alert if the face mask is not there. Okay, I can use the objects or the bounding box around an object and crop it and do some other analysis. So there are multiple use cases once you detect an object. Huge number of use cases once you detect an object. Okay, for example, assume that somebody has kept is trying to do an some sort of abnormal activity by taking gun. Assume that somebody has you in the CCTV cameras, somehow you identified that there is a gun in some baggage that nobody could actually identify. But from CCTV cameras, if they're having high resolution, it has identified this object. It has drawn a bounding box around that and immediately send an alert to the nearest police station. How many people's life will be saved? There are many use cases once you detect objects. Okay, fine. Now, okay, you understood from your supervisor, you understood that what is the importance of object detection. Perfectly fine. I don't have any issues. But very important thing is think, Nana, how can we detect objects? Firstly, if you want to do that, you should know how system will think. Assume that you have very maybe an younger brother who is studying maybe LKG or UKG or first class, and you have to teach him every object that this is a lorry, this is iPad, this is computer, this is maybe mask, or this is book, this is bag, this is phone. Like this, you have to teach him. Okay, you have to teach him. How do you teach? Firstly, you have to understand how good the kid is. If he's very smart, then you'll not stress yourself, and then you'll do the task. But if he's very dumb, then you'll come up with your own stories. Okay, you'll come up with your own way to make him understand, to make him remember what is that object. That means here also I'm making my system learn what is that object. Do remember, guys, system do not know anything. It doesn't even know what is an object. It just treats an image as a sequence of pixels. That's all. It's just sequence of pixels for it. That means system knows that it's just a matrix, nothing more than that. Image, according to it, is just a matrix of pixels. That's all. Whether this pixel 200, 150, 600, some 450, or some pixels form an object or not, it doesn't bother. It's just a matrix according to the system. Okay, that's the understanding that you have found out, that you already know that system understands everything is a matrix and it's a sequence of pixels. And now you have to in that, that's a worst case. That means my system is not at all aware of anything. So taking that system knowledge as base, you need to make sure that system understands what is object. System should be able to identify the object, and system should be able to draw the bounding box. So I should get a label also. So this is the expected output. Your manager told this is the matrix. System is always treating an image. With this matrix understanding, I expect you to draw a bounding box around that object and label that object. It's a very complex job if you think that nobody has actually invented this. Very, very complex job, right? It's a dumb, it's a completely dumb kid here. Computer is dumb kid here. Teaching the computer dumb kid is very, very, very difficult. But how do we come up with the solution? Think, Nana. Firstly, okay, as I told, in underlying is just a matrix of pixels. Perfectly fine. I don't know where exactly the object exists in these pixels. Okay. Firstly, what my manager told me to draw a bounding box around an object. But am I sure whether the person is of length this, or the person is of length this, or the person is of length this? I'm not sure. System is not aware of the objects. It's just not sure. So what we can do is, maybe since I'm not sure what is the size of each object in the image, what is the size of each object in the image, I don't know. Sometimes the image can have the car of this size, sometimes the image can have a car of this size. I don't know. The same object can have in different sizes, right? So since I'm not sure, what we do is I will propose regions. I will propose regions. Regions are nothing but the bounding boxes. Bounding box region. Bounding box region. So since I'm not sure, assume that I want to detect. I want to detect person. I want to detect person. I'm not sure whether the person will be of this size, whether person will be of this size. So if this is this size, the bounding box will be only small. If the person in the image is very big, then the bounding box also will be very big. But who told? See, I cannot see this. I cannot manually see and do that. Okay, maybe you annotate. You annotate and make system train. That's fine. That you have done it. But during testing, again, we don't know again, right? We really don't know where exactly it is there. So what we do is we propose various possible box sizes. Okay, so maybe what I do is I propose small box here. I propose maybe this box here. Maybe I propose like this. Maybe I propose like this. Maybe I propose like this. Like this, I first propose various boxes randomly, very randomly. What is the width and height? It's completely up to you. It's completely up to you. What I do is I'll first take this box. I'll first take this box and check whether there is an object in that box or not. In that small box, whether object exists or not. How do I know? How do I know? Think in the context of system. Okay, just this is just a cropping, no? This is just a cropping. In the entire image, I'm just taking only this part. In the entire matrix, I'm just taking few pixels. Will I have? Okay, maybe I'll take a bigger box so that it makes sense. It's a very small box, no? Maybe. Okay, I draw this box here. Now, in this part, I just want to see here the same box will be slided here, Nana. Then again it will be here. Again the same box will be slided 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 in the entire matrix one by one, one by one, one by one. Like we do the convolution operation, we move this box in that way. Okay, perfectly fine. Okay, let us not take all these boxes multiple times. Let us take this one box at one position. Okay. Now, how do I tell whether there exists some object here or not? How do system know this automatically? Leave about detecting the object. First of all, how does it know that object exists? Anybody? Think, Nana, think. We're starting from the scratch. Since I don't know where object is there, I'm proposing some boxes with some sizes. I've taken the first box. I'm just sliding to the entire matrix. I stopped at one point randomly, or maybe I start from the first position of the matrix. And the first position of the matrix that I'm showing here, will the object exist? How do I know? How do I make my system know? I know as a human being whether it exists or not. I cannot give my knowledge for every image. System should learn automatically when a new image is given. How do I make my system understand? Simple, Nana. You can think, Nana. Think. See, your understanding should be at this core level. Then only you can come up with your own algorithms. Think. Any answers? Okay, we are running out of time. Okay, fine. Simple, Nana. What do you do? Just crop this part of the image, supply to a CNN network, and then let the CNN network tell whether object exists or not exists. That's all. That's all. Very simple. Again, if object is not there, then again you slide this part, so slide this box, and you can crop this guy. Again, you pass this to CNN and ask whether it is yes or no. Again, you go to the next one. Again, you go to the next one. Again, you go to the next one. Again, you. That means each sub portion of your entire matrix or in each sub portion of your entire image is given as input to CNN. Let CNN give you the final output whether some object exists in that box or not. Point number one. Okay, perfectly fine. But what is the problem with this? There is a very big problem, very, very big problem. The biggest problem here is, can anybody tell the problem? Anybody? Unfortunately, if it is interview, everybody start talking because you want job. Here, nobody talks because I'm not giving a job. It's not like that, Nana. How can your thought process improve only at the time of interview if you're not talking enough? You're constantly, mind should be constantly super active, super active. Now tell me, what is the drawback? If I just gave this scenario in the interview and I ask you the drawback, what is your take on this? Make it fast because we are running out of time. We'll have less classes, please. Any answers? What is the drawback? So if it's a physical class, I could have asked you point out, but here we are running out of time. See, very simple, Nana. See, how many boxes you propose? Here I have 4 boxes. Who told that every object will fit in this possible 4 boxes? No, some object may be bigger than this biggest box, and I cannot fit it. No one knows how many boxes I have to propose. Should I propose 10 boxes, 20 boxes, 30 boxes? There are some instances where people have proposed 10,000 boxes in a single image, 10,000 boxes, 20,000 boxes, but still their accuracy was not great. Because nobody knows what each object size is there, will be there in your image. So it's ruled out. So definitely this option is not good. Okay, my thought was definitely wrong. Okay, maybe I could have my thought process to achieve the object detection to a certain extent, but the problem is time consuming. I don't have an optimal solution now. I want an algorithm which actually reduces this time consumption. Okay, that means I need to propose the regions or the boxes in a much more smarter way. Okay, that's the problem in my hand. Okay, what should I do? Maybe we can think like this. See here, instead of proposing it randomly, assume that I have first scanned the entire image in terms of pixels. At this point, I have a person. I'm slowly coming here, slowly coming here, slowly coming here. At this point, if you see, the pixels here will be of one color, right? One with certain range. But if you see, the pixels around this entire person will be almost similar. Yes or no? When compared with the neighboring pixels, the pixels on the object will be definitely very similar. The neighboring pixels will have a different set of pixels when compared with the target object. Now, what they have done is they have performed clustering, different levels of clustering to iteratively combine similar pixels. See how nicely they've used ML algorithm. We can combine similar pixels because a similar pixels can be an indication of an object. May or may not be. That's a different story. That we will correct it later. That we will correct. I'm not saying that all the similar pixels point out to object in 100% cases. No. But majority of the cases, you can say that all the similar pixels can lead to an object. May lead to an object. Later there will be corrections. We will see that. Okay, the idea was good. I think whatever the idea that we have generated, it's fine. Okay, clustering the similar pixels, and based on the each cluster, what are the cluster that you got? Maybe I found out that this is the part of my image where I have seen similar pixels. Then I start proposing boxes around that. Then I found some other similar pixels here. Then I start proposing a box here. Then I found some other object here. Then I start proposing a box here. So for each cluster of pixels, I draw a bounding box. Okay, I think this time I think this is making sense, right? I think this is making sense. Okay, fine. Clustering and then grouping and all that stuff. Okay, perfectly fine. Okay, the idea is also fine. I think now we have to put it in a more structured way. Then we'll try to understand. Okay. Okay, is it clear, guys? How do I get less number of boxes instead of doing it in a brute force way? I'm first clustering the similar pixels. Based on that, I'm drawing the bounding boxes. So what I do is take each bounding box. Earlier it is time consuming because I have infinite number of bounding boxes. Now I have limited bounding boxes. Limited bounding boxes because I applied cluster based on the similarity of the pixels. So take each box. Take each box. What do you have to do? Take each box and what you have to do? Again, I have already told. Just pass it to CNN. And it will tell whether object exists or not exist. But I already told whatever the object, whatever the box that you proposed. For example, this is the box that I proposed. Assume that I have a picture like this, where my face was not having similar pixels from neck to my toe, or maybe because I wear some shirts or whatever. So maybe on your face, any shirt will not be there. Okay, only a shirt or dress will not be there on your face. So what happened is this part of your face will be having similar pixels, and this part, maybe a till shirt you'll have one box, till pant you have one box. That means a single person is detected by three boxes. Okay, so the face, the shirt, and the pant. Okay, so it means that's very bad to have multiple boxes to detect single object. So this particular box, if I just pass this particular sub box where I'm just detecting the face only, but not the complete person, because the complete remaining part of the person is having different set of pixels. Okay, that means what I have to do once I pass this small face portion, but this is not the actual box. I want the box to be expanded. This is the proposed box. See, Nana, this is very, very important. This is proposed box, but the proposed box is not covering the entire person. So what should be the true box? The true box should be this, where it covers the entire person. Oh, fine, fine. But how do I know this true box? That's the biggest problem, right? See, I got this proposed box because it has having similar pixels. But I know from my annotation, because I know from my annotation that this is my true box. I annotate only certain images, maybe 200 or 300. But when I give in the real time, I will not give any image from the 200 images. System should be well aware of adjusting its understanding for during testing. Okay, so maybe it has understanding of identifying the true box during training, but it could predict only the small box. It has to ensure that the box is enlarged. The box is enlarged to get the true box. But how does it know? Yes, if I give that true box to the system, if I give that true box to the system, then it's very easy. Okay, presently it has drawn a small box, it has to draw a big box. Accordingly, it will adjust. But it should not be the case like that. So what should we do is, instead of telling yes and no, along with yes and no, what should I draw? I should also draw a bounding box. See, Nana, how the thought process has been slowly being evolved. That's very, very important. It's not learning the technique. If you don't understand the thought process, how people came up with these ideas, it's utter waste, utter waste. It better you don't study engineering. I feel like that. Okay, thought process evaluation is very, very important for me, at least in my classes. Enough. Okay, I predicted yes or no. Fine, but I don't want yes or no only to be done. Okay, I want this box to be corrected. So this draw bounding box is the new bounding box, corrected bounding box, corrected. Because always whatever I have proposed, the small box, that will not be holding the entire object in all the cases. I told this person example. Now I want the true box. Now how can the CNN, okay, CNN can give you yes or no. CNN can give you yes or no, perfectly fine. But can the same CNN give you the bounding box? First of all, when I say bounding box, how do I represent bounding box? Bounding box is basically the center of the box. Sometimes in some algorithms, they represent x comma y as the center of the box. Sometimes they represent x comma y at this point. Okay, anything is fine. We don't mind. Accordingly, the training has to be done. Okay, let us take the center of the box as x comma y coordinate. And this is your height and this is your width. So how many values you have to predict? You have to predict 4 values. 4 are scalar values, right? If I want to predict scalar values, what should I do? What should I do? I have to apply regression. Till now, we have not done regression. Till now, we have not done regression in the course. Okay, from the beginning, we are doing classification only. Now, this is a high time that we will study regression also. But the biggest question now is, but literally the biggest question is, what is the difference between a CNN for classification, CNN for regression? So in this case, very, very important series, the same CNN has to perform classification, yes or no. The same CNN has to perform regression also. Oh, can we really do it? Can we really do it? Single CNN outputting yes or no? Single CNN outputting 4 values, x comma y, w and h. Totally 6 values. Of course, yes or no is 1 value. Totally, this is 5 values. Regression 4 values, classification 1 value, yes or no. Maybe if it's a binary classification, if you get the probability of yes, you can get the probability of no. So minimum 5 values it has to predict. Okay. Then you have just recollect how exactly CNN looks. Can we really do this? We cannot, right? Why? Because this is a categorical value. The yes or no is a categorical value, and these 4 values are like the scalar values, the numbers. We cannot have an architecture like this directly. Oh, but thing is, sending that small box that you propose where you have a similar pixels of the face. Of course, I did not have the entire body. We'll see, but this has to be corrected. Firstly, I pass this to CNN and I get as whether some object exists. Yeah, maybe it's a face of a person, it says yes. But I have to pass this to another CNN so that I would get the corrected coordinates. Now I'll have the entire person. But passing the same image to two networks, two CNNs is again time consuming. Okay, again my thought process in this direction should be changed. That means I don't want to pass every. See, this is for only one sub portion. Like this, I'll have hundreds of sub portions, hundreds of regions proposed. Then passing every region to two networks is time consuming. Yeah, each time the CNN, if it gets trained, how much time it will take. So that means I never want to use the same CNN, different CNNs for the same, different CNNs for the same cropped image, different CNNs for the same proposed region. Then what is the objective in my mind? Okay, let the region proposed is this based on the similar pixels, and let us take the one CNN only, but I want yes or no to be predicted. I want the 4 values to be predicted, WH, X, Y. Okay, then this is only less time consuming. Okay, your ideally this is fine, but how do we do this? Maybe we have to change the last layers. I think we have to change the last layers. We'll see how do we change. Now, the next question is how to perform classification and regression with one CNN. Almost, I don't say that you have to completely use one CNN, but majority part of the training, again I'm telling, majority part of the training that was done in CNN has to be reused. Majority portion of your training, majority of your training that you have done with CNN should be used, because CNN has a lot of weights. That weight should be reused for classification and for regression. That's the main thought. Okay. Now, can anybody tell me how can we do this? Okay, I have given a hint. You have to change the last layers. Firstly, let us see. I have given a portion of image. A portion of the image where I proposed a region based on similarity of the pixels. I know you know that a convolution layer. Okay, I'm not drawing the layers. Convolution layer, max pooling layer, convolution layer, max pooling layer, like this it goes. Maybe the last layer is again a max pooling layer, max pool layer. Then after this max pooling layer, you have again fully connected layers. Again, you have fully connected layers. Again, you have fully connected layers. I assume that this is my architecture, a sequence of convolution layer, max pooling, convolution layer, max pooling, and the last one is also last layer before the fully connected layers is max pool, and there you have one fully connected layer, one fully connected layer 2, and fully connected layer 3. Now this is my original architecture. How many objects that are already being detected very popularly is around 10,000. In the current state of the architectures can detect around 10,000 objects. But that means what should be my last layer? The last layer should have 10,000 neurons, where I have a probability distribution of 10,000 neurons, where I have probability distribution of 10,000 neurons. That it will say when I pass this particular proposed region, the object in that can be of any of these 10,000 classes. But can I use that 10,000 classes? Can I really use the 10,000 classes every time? If you want, you can use it. I don't have any issue, but if I want to reduce the time consumption, firstly, what I do is I'll find out what are the possible number of objects that I can have in my domain. For example, I'm putting a CCTV camera, a smart CCTV camera in a deep learning based smart CCTV camera in our college. Now, do you think that inside the college, maybe in the classrooms, maybe in the classroom, maybe assume that in the classrooms I want to put a smart CCTV camera where it can perform object detection. Now, inside the classroom, can I have a car? Can I have a bus? Can I have something else? There are many objects that cannot enter into the classroom. Then why should I always do a probability distribution of huge 10,000 classes? So what we do is, if you want to further reduce, you can define what are the set of objects that will be there in that particular domain, because every image will not have all the 10,000 classes for sure. We'll have very limited. So what we do is we completely, let me take another color. Yeah, we completely remove this last layer. and we take this FC2 fully connected layer. We take this FC2 fully connected layer and reduce. Maybe if in my college, in my class, I assume that maximum I found out that 500 classes there, then I get the 500 softmax distribution. Okay, so this is one optimization that you can do. Point number one. That means I'm done with classification. So I get a probability distribution of 500 classes and I'll find out whether there is some object in this region proposed or not. So okay, I'm done. But how do I do regression? Because regression you want values. So instead what we do, you already know, this is very important thing. See, the feature extraction part, the understanding part, the feature extraction and the understanding part lies where? Lies in this part. Which part? This part. Whatever the understanding that you have, whatever the system understanding lies, completely lies before the fully convolution layers. The complete feature extraction is done till the last layer of fully connected, before the last layer, before the fully connected layer. Before the fully connected layer, what we have? Max pool layer. That means from the beginning till the fully connected layer, this is actually feature extraction part. You already know that. So the generic understanding of various shapes, various curves, entire understanding is there till this point. Now, since the entire understanding of the objects is there till the max pool layer, so what we do is we supply this to a regression model. Regression models, you have studied linear regression, non-linear regression techniques. You supply whatever the understanding that you have to a regression model of machine learning. Then you predict W. Again, you pass this to another regression model and you get height. Again, you pass this understanding to another regression model and you get X. And you pass this to another regression model and you get Y. Okay, since understanding was already been there, then it is very easy for me to get W, H, X, Y. Okay, that means I got classification result using the same CNN and I got WHXY also. But am I lacking certain things? Yes, there are certain problems even with this. What are those problems and how do we address those problems? We'll see. I did not combine this. I have to combine these two guys. How do I combine and how do I, there is certain problems I'll discuss because time is up. So I'll discuss there are certain problems. This is not as simple, but till now is it clear? The motivation is finally we came up to a place where we found less number of regions based on clustering. Then we have used same CNN for classification, for regression. That is the thought process that we have taken through till this point. Okay, so what are 3 points? We have reduced the number of proposed regions. We have used the same CNN for classification and as well as for regression. But what is the next thing? Can we directly go for the deployment? Can we write the code? No, there are certain problems that we have to handle. Then we'll jump to the next level of evolution of our thought process. Okay, so that's all for the day, and let me check your questions if you have any.